looks like I can begin. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
All right. It having reached the hour of 5:30, I am calling the February 1st, 2022 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton.
Here.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Here.
Councilmember Ricky.
Here.
Councilmember Zalaki.
Here.
Councilmember Knoyer.
Here.
Mayor Zwallen.
Here. This meeting will not be physically open to the public. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted pursuant to AB 361, which amended the Brown Act, teleconferencing provisions, and will not be physically open to the public. You may observe a live stream of the meeting or participate by email, Zoom, and telephone. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Ahmed Kayelo from the Islamic Center of Modesto. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. Is the Imam here?
Mayor Zwallen, I don't see that name in the list of in the attendees window. I do see one that says Galaxy Note 8. If you don't mind, I'll bring them in to ask if that's who this is.
Okay.
Okay. The person with the login of Galaxy Note 8, are you providing the invocation?
Well, yeah, the Note 8.
Yeah, I'm sorry. May I ask your name?
Arthur Famella.
Oh, okay. So we're looking for the invocation. So just a moment. Thank you.
So under Adjournment's just popular.
Sorry, please mute if you're not wanting to be heard.
Okay, Mayor Zwallen, I do not see Aman logged onto the screen.
All righty. Could I ask Vice Mayor Wright to give the invocation?
I would be honored to, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Let's pray. Dear Father, we just come to you today and we thank you for all of our blessings. We thank you for a great country that you have let us live in. And we just pray, Lord, that you will give us wisdom and guidance tonight as we make decisions for our citizens here in Modesto, and that your blessing will be upon this council and also on the city of Modesto. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Do the council members have any conflicts of interest? I do not see any hands raised or any comments. Will the city attorney report out on closed session, please?
Yes, Mayor. The City Council had a closed session today related to an existing litigation, to an existing case. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Next is acknowledgments and presentations. And the first on the agenda is the county COVID-19 update from Manny Graywall, Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors.
I do not see Supervisor Graywall logged on, and if there is someone representing him, if you could raise your hand, please. And Mayor Zwallen, I do not see any hands raised at this time, and I do not see Supervisor.
All right. Thank you. We will go on to item 2, Modesto Convention and Visitors Bureau presentation. I will turn this over initially to Lori Smith, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods.
Okay, in just a moment, Mayor, I'll bring them in. Okay, and I see Lori Smith and Todd Aronson are both here.
Thank you, Mayor Zwallen, members of the City Council, Lori Smith, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods. This evening, I am pleased to introduce Todd Aronson, Executive Director of the Modesto Convention and Visitors Bureau, to provide an annual presentation and update on the last 12 months of activity as done by the Convention Bureau. So I'll turn it over to Todd.
Welcome, Todd.
And Todd, if you're speaking, we're unable to hear you at this point.
Okay, how's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, and you can see my screen, right?
Correct.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, and everyone attending tonight. I want to take a few minutes to show where we've been as a hospitality community in the last year and where we're headed to. I think it's most important as we start moving through this is to talk about our economy as resilient, as Modesto as resilient. We're not a one-dimensional destination. When we start looking at occupancy over the last several years, ending in 2021, we see that 2019 had been the best year ever, not only for Modesto, but nationwide in occupancy. 2020, a tragic year across the nation. Modesto persevered incredibly well. More importantly, 2021, when there was no more group business, no more tour and travel business, Modesto had its best year ever in occupancy through a lot of hard work through our hospitality partners, both in lodging and throughout the community. The nation is still recovering. We are ahead of the curve here. Average rate pretty much tells the same story, with 2021 being our best year ever and closing the gap against the nation. And more importantly, revenue per available room, which is known as RevPAR. This is the statistic that economists, industrialists, investors use and hotel companies when measuring a destination for investment and new lodging opportunities. 2019 was our best year ever. 2020, we continued to grow above what was going on throughout the country. And even as the country recovered in 2021, we then had our best year ever again, exceeding $82 in RevPAR. So kudos to the hospitality community and the rest of our partners in lodging. So while it was a tragic 2 years in the industry for Modesto, our resilience really showed that it was our best of times, and it was very, very hard. I call Modesto resilient, both our workforce and our economy. Back in 2020, California had a contraction in the travel industry of over 55%. Modesto was only 48%. And when the entire nation was suffering in lodging tax, occupancy tax, what we call TOT here, in 2019, it was a record year. It grew again in 2020 and again in 2021. So we continue to exceed expectations through a lot of hard work throughout the community. And how do we do that? By turning negatives into positives. For many years, we've talked about this with this group, our digital image was not very good out there in space. So we focus on what's good about Modesto, what's cool. And we spend a lot of time communicating to the outside world all these great things about Modesto: stone fruit, taco trucks, safe restaurants, agriculture, incredible parks. And then we share what's really cool, whether it's the live entertainment, Gallo Center for the Arts, Modesto on Ice, Almond Blossom Cruise. And we share this as the travel economy is changing. People want to drive now to destinations. They want to go to more affordable destinations that they can bring the whole family and have experiences in safe environments they haven't had before. So how do we do that? We work with partners like Visit California. 4 times a year, we're communicating with their 200,000 subscribers worldwide. We do the same with national parks and Yosemite Park to their 100,000 subscribers. Even last week, we had a program with Visit California where 1,000 people pre-registered for the Almond Blossom Cruise. And we know what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. We make sure we know who's looking at our website on a daily basis with every single campaign we launch. What pages are they going to? Where are they looking from? Then we can market to these cities. Like if Los Angeles is looking at the Almond Blossom Cruise, we do digital marketing there. Where do visitors come during Getmo Cheer? Where do visitors go after they check into a hotel? We track all of these using tools like Zartico, which is an economic indicator tool that will help us see where visitors come from on a daily basis, where they're spending their money, whether it be in retail, transportation, healthcare, lodging, so that we can talk to them about the amenities that they want to experience. We even know when they're going to parks. And then we know our top 10 most popular places, and we can look at that by where they're coming from, how much money they spend when they're in the economy, and then we continue to tell those good stories. So how do we do that? With our website. So our website grew by 400% in 2021 with views to for the first time, over 200,000 visitors, as well as unique total visitors, and unique visitors also grew by 400%. We track every single ad that we launch on social media and in the digital space. So we had more than 3 million looks at Modesto last year, over 100,000 people clicking through on a cost per click of 24 cents. And our mission is to keep bringing that 24 cents down while expanding the clicks and impressions. And then we do the same thing with SEO in Google. So if people are driving south through Stockton or north through Merced and they're searching for lodging, dining, entertainment, we're sending out advertising that is all about Modesto. And right now we're doing that at 3 cents per click. So everything we do is measured so we can obviously report back to you, but also stretch our budget as far as possible. So where are we going in the future? And thank you, City Council. We'll be rolling out more initiatives. Our goal is to have 4 major seasonal initiatives per year. We'll be rolling out the beginning of our ag tourism and food, wine, spirits programming this summer. Esports. That agricultural tourism really can be a great opportunity for Modesto. So these are the things we'll be doing over the next 24 months. I know I don't have a lot of time today and I don't want to hold everybody up. So I'm willing to take questions. I do want to thank the hospitality community and all of our partners, as well as the team here at Visit Modesto for the great hard work.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful, Todd. Appreciate it. Any questions from council members? Councilmember Madrigal?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Todd, thank you for that great presentation. It was very encouraging. I really appreciate your measurements, what do you call them, metrics on the impact of the work that that Visit Modesto does to get people to come to Modesto and get the word out about what we have to offer. It's very encouraging. I wanted to ask you about one industry in particular, which is our cannabis industry. I know I had heard something in the past about the creation of the CannaPass program. Could you give us an update on where that stands now? And I say this to you in the context of we as Modesto looking to have a social equity program. And in my mind, I'm thinking if we can do everything that we can to build and, have our cannabis industry prosper, then I believe that we could be setting up a prosperous market that social equity cannabis dispensary applicants, people that are, from historically underrepresented communities such as African American, Latino, or other business owners, they could potentially come into a market that is right with more growth as opposed to just coming into what we have now in our current economy. I hope that kind of gives you a bigger picture of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, thank you. We did work with the Director of Parks Recreation, Lori Smith, and the City Manager, Joe Lopez. We provided a report on some of those statistics recently. I'm sure they're more than willing to share them with you. There's no specific segment that's more important than another segment. So when we go into marketing after a specific type of traveler, like you were just talking about, it's really based on what the trends are for that market segment. If they match what we've been doing at Visit Modesto, we will go ahead and put marketing efforts after them. So I'm sure with Ms. Smith and Mr. Lopez, we can share that report information with you. They do have that.
So could you give us an update on that at the next council meeting, or hopefully next month at the latest? I'd like to see an update on that if there's no objection from my colleagues.
Yeah, as directed, if I get the call, I'll be more than happy to make that report.
Okay, city manager, do you see any problem with having this report come to the council as an update?
We'll take note of that and discuss it further.
Do you mind if I just get a quick yay or nay, Madam Mayor, from the city manager?
Yeah, during public comment time, we tend to not want to go in back and forth conversations. I would say we take note and have a conversation.
No, that's why I just was hoping for a quick, reply. I was not looking for a back and forth conversation, Madam Mayor. If there's any way that I could please get an answer, that would be informational, to say the least. If you could allow that.
I just wanted to reiterate, this is public comment time. I think you can have that discussion not during the public's time. So next we'll hear from Councilmember Ricky. Do you have questions?
Yeah, when I looked at
this topic.
Okay. My question is on the, am I allowed to ask questions right now?
Right, we're talking about the presentation from the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay, great.
Todd,
Todd, on your digital spend, you mentioned that you spent $25,000 and that your CPC was 24 cents.
Right.
First of all, I want to compliment you on that CPC. It's a pretty solid CPC, and that's some good work, man. So well done.
Thank you. We have a great team.
Yeah, that's not easy to do. So I as someone who does digital marketing, I think that it's great work. Also, the budget-wise, it just seems like it's a little bit low. I'd like to see more invested in digital, especially right now. So that's just me giving you my opinion.
Yeah.
When you're deploying your budgets.
Yeah, so we are actually ramping that up all the time. Last year being so unique in how travel was operating, a lot of it was touch and feel. So, test, see the reaction, put a little bit more on it. And what we did is we gathered information for what we're doing right now. So literally this month, we're spending over $5,000 just in digital market. So we learned from the lessons of last year, we're applying them this year, and we're watching it every day. So we are spending more. We have the budget now that revenues have stabilized quite a bit. So we can apply that funding appropriately.
Sounds good. And, I shared Councilmember Madrigal's curiosity on the Cannabis program. I think it's an important revenue generator that we need to try to take advantage of, and I'd like to hear more information about it. Should that be something that we're allowed to do?
All right, questions? Councilmember Canoyer?
This isn't really a question, it's a comment. I just want to thank Todd for the hard work and the accomplishment that he and his staff has done to really put Modesto on the map, which has been something that we haven't seen ever. And so kudos. I, love following your every month, your reports, and you've just done a phenomenal job. And I cannot say how much I appreciate it. And it's something that I had looked forward to for ever since I've been on council. So thank you so much. And that we're just gonna get better.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, it was great because last year we received recognition from U.S. Travel. We were one of 3 finalists for what's called an ESTO award. And then we just found out this week from Visit California, we're one of 3 finalists for a Cooperative Marketing Award from Visit California as well.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, I'm not going to repeat what everyone else has said, but wow, beyond floored but not surprised. Thank you for everything you do. Yeah. What % of viewership to your online presence is outside of Modesto?
It's a great question. So when we started tracking this back in, when we had our website analytics back in February of 2020, 9 out of our top 10 cities were all in Stanislaus County, and we're getting about 5,000 visits a month. Now, the only city in our top 10 is Modesto. It's LA, it's San Francisco, it's San Diego, Sacramento, San Jose, a lot in the East Bay that changes back and forth by city. So it's really exciting to see the change in the demographics of people who are looking at us and where they're coming from. So to answer your question, probably about 80% is coming from outside the region.
Wow. Emoji, high fives. My last question is, you had referenced 4 major initiatives that you were going to do this upcoming year. Can you please repeat them?
Yeah, so the Almond Blossom Cruise is going to be Q1. We're working on programming for ag tourism to tie into that June car culture period. We know that Get Mo Cheer will be our winter initiative, and we're really trying to determine what is the right initiative for Q3. We want to do, we've been talking for a year now about doing something around Breast Cancer Awareness Month, kind of a Get Mo Pink kind of thing, but we want to make sure it's the right thing for both our lodging partners and the hospitality community, so we're bringing business when they need it. We may need to switch that focus to August because that's when we need the business the most. So we're still working on that 4th one.
Great. Okay. Again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, thank you for your report. I've always looked forward to it. It's very positive and upbeat, and I know you're doing a great job. The only comment that I would have is that you are the best kept secret in Modesto. There's a lot of people in Modesto that really don't understand what you're doing. And it's a positive thing what you're doing out there in the community. And I just hope that your team really looks at some good social medias, whatever they can to really get the word out in Modesto. So people really in Modesto will realize that this is a destination that people from other cities want to come to. So people need to feel good about Modesto. We're starting to see an upturn of people seeing things happening in Modesto. And I think what you're doing is a very positive thing, and it just needs to be out into the social medias more, and also so that our citizens of Modesto can really see the popularity of our city throughout California.
Yeah, and thank you very much. We don't disagree. It's interesting that our cost per click is almost double locally than what it is in other regions, trying to get eyes to look at Modesto from Modesto. So yeah, we're with you, and it's something we promise we will continually work on and improve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. I have a question. I know one of the slides showed the, there was a graph and it showed the most likely destinations in Modesto that people visit, but I could not see what they were.
Well, you know, it varies. Actually, that report, the reason I blacked that out because I was pulling pictures quickly. That one was all Modesto for a period in December, and the hospitals were the top 3. But it changes. So we have what are called neighborhoods to look at, or points of interest. And Zydeco just went live with us in December. So we're cleaning that up a little bit, more about how we can use it. I'll get back to you on that, Mayor, with what is real. We want to look at it seasonally, and we're going to do a deep dive after Almond Blossom Cruise to see what people are doing during this period.
All righty, that's interesting that hospitals, that's interesting. I'll look forward to any more information, but thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Any comments from council members at this point? All right, thank you so much, Todd. That was beautiful, very uplifting and inspiring. Looking forward to hearing again from you. Take care.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night. All right, we are on to our public comment period. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? This is for items not on the council agenda, and each person has 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, Mayor Zwollen, we have Richard Anderson.
All right, welcome, Richard.
Hello, just curious, can you see me or just my voice? Well,
I can only hear your voice, Richard. I cannot see you.
Good, because I'm just going to read this and make it fast. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I am Richard Anderson, 916 Melinda Lane, and I'm starting to help a Syrian family of 4 who are recent arrivals trying to move into our community. They're being helped by the World Relief, the College Avenue Congregational Church, and the Islamic Center of Modesto. We've been able to get the son, Daniel, into MJC's ESL classes, signed up with an In-N-Out burger for a possible job, and an individual ESL tutor for the mother. The biggest problem these refugees face is housing. January 31st, they almost became homeless, but now there is hope that there may be an affordable apartment with 2 bedrooms that will become available in the next couple of weeks. Finding housing is very hard for the refugees that World Relief is trying so hard to settle here. Helping with this family has shown me there's another big category of people who need workforce housing in our community. When the city decides what to do with those 54 acres of the Munich golf course, please remember the people of Modesto do not need more huge single-family houses that may be bought up by escapees from the Bay Area. I just inserted here. We need so much more workforce housing, apartments, small duplexes, and workforce affordable housing of other kinds. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Melissa Cruz.
All right, welcome, Melissa.
And Ms. Cruz, if you could unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and this is my first time making a public comment. I'm a member of a local community church here in Modesto, and I was hearing some friends of mine in the community talk about the resolution number 2022-055 regarding the 4 full-time positions that are on the agenda for today for Ranger and it said Ranger and Cadets Patrol. And my question is their duties and roles are going to be part of not only the parks in Modesto or the open space, but my question is it going to be available for small businesses and community churches?
I am not sure if there's anyone on this call tonight that can specifically answer that. Do you know? I would need clarification again on that question also.
Well, you know, I have as we all know, there's a big issue with the homeless population here in the Stanislaus County. And we've had a few incidents here nearby in the community in our local businesses that the homeless are vandalizing the buildings, breaking windows. As a church and as a part of as a member of my community, I'm a person that helps those that are in need. But when a person is out of control and is leaving their trash and just trashing the place, and you call the non-emergency public MPD number and they come out and they say they can't do anything about it because they were informed that they cannot take anybody into take them to jail because they were told that due to COVID, they don't want to overpopulate the jails. What happens? I mean, is there a resolution? Is there a solution for the homeless population that they were staying here in Modesto?
I think, Melissa, what would be best is if you send your questions to us and then we can respond back to each one of them specifically.
Okay.
That would probably be the best.
Okay, well, I just, like I said, it's my first time joining, and I'm big in helping my community, and I've been here in Modesto for many years, and I see the change within the years, and it's not looking good as far as the homeless. I just have so many questions. Is there going to be, buildings? Are there going to be homes? I know that the economy is the rate, everything is going up, and it's like people that are middle class are barely making it, and I know the homeless are even struggling more. What's the solution for the problem that we're having regarding the homeless population here in Stanislaus County? So I will email you. So is there a certain email that I can email you at?
You can email me at mayor@modestogov.com.
Okay, great. I will do that. Thank you.
I appreciate all your questions will be answered. We'll get back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Zwalin, we have Ramon Rodriguez.
All right, welcome, Ramon.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My public comments regarding affordable housing, the former municipal golf park on the west side of Modesto, it needs to be transformed from from a golf park into a public park / affordable housing duplexes where people can move in and have a chance of affordable home ownership or affordable housing. Also, I've drove by around the airport neighborhood of Modesto, and I've seen many cars and tents, as well as the neglected infrastructure that needs to be improved, because that needs to be met. And probably a lot of residents in that neighborhood are asking the same questions. And also, I agree with Council Member Ricky about having a designated place for the homeless who have their tents and RVs and cars somewhere around, and also bringing back a tent city or leasing or an abandoned building, or building a building, to provide a temporary shelter for the homeless to get their life back together and to relieve themselves from homelessness, to getting back to their feet to a normal life. That is a challenge. Also, affordable housing needs to be addressed, because it's not just in Modesto, but it's happening all around California. And we need to start building more duplexes, townhouses, apartments, because single family homes, it takes up a lot of space and also contributes to climate change. And not everyone it's not having families. So we need to look at duplexes, multi-story housing, and everything. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under public comment?
Mayor Zwalin, I do not see any hands raised at this time. Just giving it a couple of seconds. And I still do not see any hands raised.
All right, thank you very much. Will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Yes, Mayor. Item 3, consider approving the minutes from the January 25th, 2022 council meeting. Item 4, consider final adoption of ordinance 3741-CS, amending section 1-2.10 of Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 2, Penalty Provisions of the Modesto Municipal Code relating to issuance of citations by designated employees to include park rangers and police cadets and police cadet 2s. Item 5, consider amending section 23 of the Housing and Urban Development Policies and Procedures Manual. Section 3, Compliance. Item 6, consider approving an Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act to Center for Human Services for the operation of the Navigation Center Low Barrier Youth Shelter located at 2008 West Briggsmore Avenue in an amount not to exceed $50,304 to prevent, mitigate, and respond to the spread of COVID-19, as well as $5,000 for activity delivery. Item 7, consider approving the First Amendment to the Center for Human Services ESG CARES Grant Act Sub-Recipient Agreement for the Youth Street Outreach by increasing the contract amount from $40,000 to $56,893, extending the term of the agreements from ending June 30th, 2022 to September 30th, 2022. Item 8, consider approving the First Amendment to the Haven Women's Center of Stanislaus ESG CARES Act Sub-Recipient Agreement, increasing the contract amount from $36,000 to $98,000, extending the term of the agreement from ending June 30th, 2022 to September 30th, 2022, as well as increasing the activity delivery from $5,000 to $7,000. Item 9, consider approving a Second Amendment to Downtown Streets Incorporated ESG CARES Act Program Sub-Recipient Agreement, increasing the contract amount from $450,000 to $900,000 and extending the term of the agreement from ending June 30th, 2022 to September 30th, 2022. Item 10, consider approving an agreement with Mr. Michael Baldwin Senior Consultants, LLC, to provide cultural relations and community building coaching for a 1-year agreement with 2 one-year extension options for an annual estimated cost of $98,500 and a total amount not to exceed $295,500 over 3 years. Item 11, consider approving an agreement with Spatialytics, LLC, to provide access to geo-enabled software products and services for a 3-year term with 2 one-year extension options at an estimated annual cost of $73,500 for an estimated total not to exceed $357,000 over 5 years. Item 12, consider approving the award of bid and agreement for fire safety system services to the BGR Group from Santa Clara, California for a 2-year agreement with 3 one-year extension options for an annual estimated cost for the first year of $292,370 and a total amount not to exceed $1,024,091 over 5 years with any new site additions, removals, or substantive services changes to be authorized by the Director of Finance or her designee. Item 13, consider authorizing staff to apply for the Cal Recycle SB 1383 local assistance grant programs as available and authorizing staff to apply for any future Cal Recycle SB 1383 grants. Item 14, consider approving a Second Amendment to the agreement with David Keith Todd Consulting Engineering, doing business as Todd Groundwater, for the preparation of a groundwater sustainability plan and related technical studies for the Modesto sub-basin in the amount of $220,015 for the identified scope of services for an amended total not to exceed $2,689,311 and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 multi-year program budget in the amount of $70,000. Item 15, consider accepting the Headworks Dryden Box and Influent Flume Improvements project is complete, authorizing all necessary steps to file with the county recorder, releasing securities, and releasing payments totaling $18,637,897 to C. Overa and Company of Richmond, California.
Move to approve all consent items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Councilmember Escudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal? Councilmember Madrigal? Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Knoyer?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal? Shall I just count him as absent?
Aye. Sorry for that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, so it carries unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any comments and reports? Vice Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to our police department who had their team out this week. They collected 65 shopping carts that have been illegally taken from stores, arrested 8 persons that apparently had warrants out for their arrest, and I think they did a great job. I had a lot of comments from my constituents in my district on a great job. Then also, I just want to let the public know that there are several different apartment complexes that are on the forefront that will start being built in the near future to help on the shortage of housing. I know we've had a lot of comments on affordable housing, and so there's some big apartment complexes that will be going in on the near future. So that's good news to Jalen and his crew on really pushing forward on affordable housing. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will make a couple of comments here. We recently had a concerned citizens meeting with many of our people that have businesses downtown. And Councilmember Ricky and I met with them, as well as our city manager, Joe Lopez, Police Chief Brandon Gillespie, Sheriff Jeff Dirksey, County CEO Jody Hayes, and Supervisor Withrow. And it was a very productive meeting on some of the challenges that we've heard from people regarding homelessness and other issues downtown. We listened to them. They heard of all the things that we are doing to improve it. They were aware of it and so appreciative. And I felt like it was a really good discourse back and forth. And I was grateful to be a part of that. I want to mention our firefighter, Max Fortuna, with the Stockton Fire Department that lost his life yesterday in the line of duty. He lives in Modesto. I am well acquainted with his wife and family, and I wanted to publicly recognize that I send my concern and love and well-being to everyone in the Fortuna family. So next we will hear from Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge this being the first day of February, it being Black History Month. And as we all know, it's a time in which we observe and celebrate the contribution to our nation made by individuals of African descent. I know that Modesto is going to be no different in celebrating their successes and having multiple community events. So I encourage everyone to attend and access information of various events on their social media sites and their various publications where they obtain this type of information, very much so. Secondly, I wanted to mention this past Saturday, some members of the council attended a Blue Mass, and this was held at St. Joseph's Catholic Church on Oakdale Boulevard. This Mass was absolutely beautiful, and as a collective community, we prayed for and with all members of law enforcement. That included the fire, that included CHP, that included the sheriff, police, and all other first responders. It was well attended. And one of the things that was so lovely about this particular Mass is that 3 Gold Star mothers were present. And they were there to honor their child who was being honored as a fallen law enforcement officer. So again, what a great event. And lastly, like you, Mayor, I just want to give my deepest condolences for the Stockton Fire Captain Max Fortuna and his family. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Councilmember Ricky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to also share the
Why is someone talking about this?
just the feelings of condolence to the Fortuna family. I mean, we all kind of feel like I hear from them all the time because of Becky's position with city schools. So it's just hits home for everybody. And it's just really a terrible tragedy, but we're anything we can do, you know. But Sue mentioned also that we met this week with county members of county government, community members, members of our City of Modesto staff, and it's just super encouraging to see us all working together to find solutions. I think there's, you know, some support for safe parking. I think it's a really important step in the actions that we can take, you know, as a city to help reduce homelessness in our community. You know, people that are living in their cars, you know, often have jobs and sometimes they're recently homeless. So providing like safe parking not only gives people kind of a safe place to park for the night, but it also opens up an opportunity for case management, maybe like paths back out of homelessness before people go to the edge, you know. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see safe parking brought to committee, you know, sooner rather than later, because the city expects that we, you know, that we deliver action when it comes to homelessness, and I think that we have a responsibility to deliver on it. And finally, I want to talk about blighted commercial properties. I mean, everyone knows the ones I'm talking about: the Orchard Supply, Toys R Us on Sisk, Save Mart on Pellendale, and there's dozens of other ones. And what bothers me about it is that many of these properties are actually rented, but since the ownership gets rent, they don't really care how they look. And so we have these just large abandoned retail spaces. They're an eyesore. They hurt our city's image. And the time has come to hold landlords accountable with an ordinance that requires unoccupied properties to be held just to a reasonable standard. So those are my thoughts for tonight, and thanks for the time.
All right, Councilmember Canoyer.
Like the rest of you, I do want to send my condolences. It was a tragic event. You know, firemen don't have any way to protect themselves, and it's so unexpected. And I have, you know, my condolences and prayers are for the family. Also, just on a personal note, when I had my last CT scan, probably because I could walk on my hip, was because it was just really badly bruised and not broken, which was really good. But I still have a fractured sacrum and am going to be laid up, you know, for at least another 6 weeks. And I just want to thank everybody for their prayers and concerns. And we have a group of people who have been bringing us our meals, night meals. And it's just so wonderful to know that if something happens to you, there's so many people out there that care for you. So thank you all.
You're very welcome, Jenny. Thank you. Councilmember Madrigal?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
First of all, I just wanted to extend my deepest condolences to the Fortuna family for their loss, and to our entire firefighter family here in Modesto and here in our Central Valley. In Spanish, we say, I am with you in your pain, which when we say it in Spanish, we say, te acompaño en tu dolor. I also want to say, Jenny, my thoughts and prayers are still with you. You're so tough. You inspire me, and so I feel bad for this cancer because you're going to whip it. I did want to just ask a follow-up question of staff on a request I made, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 council meetings ago. I wanted to get an update on surveillance cameras in our illegal trash dumping hotspots. I didn't hear any objections from any of my council colleagues. Can we please get a update at the next council meeting? Where is it at? Even if it's months away, just tell us where it's at, because I get inquiries. I don't know about the rest of my colleagues, but people ask me, where are you guys going to put cameras? You know, what are you guys doing with all the money? You know, I know those are general statements, but I want to be able to, to provide an update to people in my community, and I'm sure everybody in Modesto would probably be interested in receiving an update. So can I get an answer from staff as to whether or not we can expect to see an update on that at our next council meeting?
Excuse me. Here again, this is not on the agenda, so I'm always hesitant to talk about anything that's not on the agenda.
No, I agree completely.
Right.
I'm
So,
not asking for
any of
something.
those questions can be, any of those questions Tony can be asked at any point, and you can find out.
Okay, well, I hope staff hears me loud and clear. I'm asking if we can get an update on video surveillance cameras to try to combat illegal dumping in Modesto. And I hope I get an answer back. Usually, city manager just kind of chimes in and says, yes, we can have that at the next council meeting. I don't see why that has to change. So, can I get a quick answer?
Mayor, I'll defer to you if you want me to answer.
This is not on the agenda. If you want to ask any of these questions, I know you have many, you're free to do that at any time.
Okay, well, if you'd be so kind as to recognize the city manager, then I could possibly get a response back.
City Manager Lopez.
Yeah, we're bringing an update to the Safety and Communities meeting this coming month right here. One of your other requests were on cannabis revenues, and that was discussed at the January Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Zalaki.
Thank you, Mayor. I too just want to offer condolences to the family and what happened in Stockton here. And along with that, just the other firefighters that were there trying to help out and were put under extreme risky situation. This is not a normal process of what happens, but it shows the risk of what our public safety puts up with in some areas and in some communities. And it's worth acknowledging that there's a serious problem in California when these kinds of events happen and people's lives are at risk just there putting out a fire. It's a tragedy. And so I want to add my thoughts to the chorus here of the council that we're all equally in the same position of the abhorrence of this kind of activity in our own backyard. And those that were such good friends, this was a Modesto resident, and it's just a very, very sad thing that occurred. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other council comments? I think everyone spoke. Does the city manager have any comments and reports?
I do not this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next on the agenda is new business. Item 16, consider approving the submission of a grant application for the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program to the Board of State and Community Corrections for up to $6 million in grant funds with up to $6 million in an in-kind and/or cash match for a maximum commitment of $12 million. May we please have our staff report?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brandon Gillespie, Chief of Police. And tonight we're going to ask for permission to apply for a California Violence Intervention and Prevention, which is the acronym for CalGRIP grant. Have an opportunity to apply for this grant that looks at effective violence reduction initiatives. And here to present for the police department tonight is our police department budget manager, Jessica Smart, as well as one of our police lieutenants, Chris Adams. So I will turn it over to them for the presentation tonight.
All right, welcome Jessica and Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am going to share the presentation. Can you all see that?
I cannot, now maybe it's coming on. There we go, we got it.
A little delay. All right. As the chief mentioned, I am Jessica Smart. I am the business services analyst for the police department. And tonight we are here to seek permission to apply for the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program called CALVIP through the Board of State and Community Corrections. The purpose of CALVIP is to improve public health and safety by supporting effective violence reduction initiatives in communities that are disproportionately impacted by violence, particularly group member involved homicides, shootings, and aggravated assaults. As you can see on the slide, the Break This Cycle of Violence Act of 2019 created the BSCC's CALVIP program, and it encourages agencies to develop local approaches to meet the diverse needs of their own individual community. And the key is providing these services to a small segment of the population identified as having the highest risk of violence. Eligible applicants are cities that are disproportionately impacted by violence and community-based organizations that serve the residents of those cities. For the purposes of CALVIP, disproportionately impacted by violence is met if any of the following are true. The first criteria is if a city experienced 20 or more homicides per calendar year during two or more of the last 3 years, or they experienced 10 or more homicides per calendar year and had a homicide rate that was at least 50% higher than the statewide rate during 2 or more of the last 3 years. Or the third criteria, which is otherwise demonstrated a unique and compelling need for additional resources to address the impact of homicide, shootings, and aggravated assaults in the community. A total of 53 communities meet one or more of the eligibility criteria. Local communities include Stockton, Sacramento, and Fresno, who meet all 3 criteria categories. Merced and Turlock join Modesto in also being eligible, and we are all eligible under the same criteria, which is the unique and compelling need, which is defined by CALVIP as experiencing 5 or more homicides during 2 or more of the last 3 years. This is a competitive grant process. The deadline is next Friday, which is February 11th. It is a 3-year grant, which would run from July 1st of this calendar year to June 30th of 2025. And then there would be an additional 6-month period through December 31st of 2025 for the evaluation of the program. Some funding specifics are that there is a maximum grant request of $6 million that would be broken up across the 3 years for $2 million per year. There is a 100% match requirement, which can be cash or in kind or any combination thereof. And there is also a requirement of a 50% pass through to at least one qualified non-governmental community-based organization. Our internal requirement for this grant application would be that any CBO receiving funding from us would commit to match 100% of whatever funding they are requesting. This strategy will leave the city with just 50% of funds requested for our portion of the required match, for which we do intend the match to be in kind. Per the city's grant administrative directive, we are here tonight seeking permission for this level of grant, to apply for this level of grant. And if we are awarded and successful, the award package and implementation plan would come before the Safety and Communities Committee and then to council for approval and acceptance. And now I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Adams, who's going to talk a little bit more about the specific details of our proposal.
Thank you, Jessica. And I just want to make sure everyone can hear me before I continue talking.
We can.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council, city manager. So just to kind of get in the meat and potatoes of how we identified what is our identified target population for this grant, we have to fit in that what the grant requires, small segment of the population. And so we pulled crime statistics, and the map that you're looking at here specifically identifies what is aggravated assault and homicide data from December of 2020 to November of 2021. So this hotspot, for lack of a better term, map that you're looking at identifies the area that we have identified as being our target location for the grant and where we want to implement the strategies and goals that we have developed over the last couple months as we get ready to submit this application. Next slide, please. So if you can see a zoomed in portion of this map here, we're looking specifically at the target area being south of Kansas Avenue, everything north of the river, west of the 99 freeway, and east of the South Carpenter Road. Specifically, we have this area identified because a very dense population that's ethnically diverse. This is coming from 2020 census data. And it also gives us the opportunity to have that small segment of the population which the grant requires, but it also gives us some neighboring neighborhoods that we can also utilize as our control group to know what services and strategies are actually working that we've developed. Throughout this 3-year cycle of the grant, obviously the continued evaluation is going to be important, but in the end, we want to make sure that we can know that the ideas and the projects that we're implementing are actually working. And then once we have determined that, then we can start expanding these strategies on larger parts of the city that are to give us the opportunity to use some of these tools that we developed during this 3-year grant period. Next slide, please. One of the very specific things about our grant with our partner agencies that I'm going to talk about in a second is targeting our youth. One of the statistics that we found during our research of this grant is that the spike in crime when crime starts occurring often is around that 15, 16 years old. So we want to intervene with our youth before that. And that's building relationships with the police, with our community partners, with all the different outreach programs we have. We want to get them prior to them getting into that age where they're at a high propensity for committing crime. About 10 years ago, we were part of a grant called CalGRIP, and it's basically the predecessor of the CalVIP program. That focused specifically on adults. And during that time, one of the things that we noticed is that if we're targeting people already involved in crime, while there's some interventions that we can do during that, but we found that targeting the youth is probably going to be a better effort in order to try to avoid that crime spike that we see in the data. Next slide, please. And I think, Jessica, this one's for you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So a little bit about our proposal idea. So the grant funds must be used to support, expand, and replicate evidence-based violence reduction strategies that seek to interrupt cycles of violence and retaliation in order to reduce the incidences that we're seeing of homicide, shootings, and aggravated assaults. Based on the data that was reviewed, the proposal will be focused on focused deterrence. And we identified 4 prongs that could accomplish this mission for us: early prevention, diversion, hotspot direct enforcement, and reintegration. For early prevention, as Lieutenant Adams discussed, really getting to the population before they are engaging in criminal activity, or at least before it's serious criminal activity. And part of that is working with the schools and recreation programs and things of that nature. For diversion, it's providing an alternative to traditional punitive punishment for low-level offenders who are young and getting them diverted away from the criminal justice system and into proactive programs. For hotspot and direct enforcement, that's more of what law enforcement can provide, but leading more with outreach and engagement, and then providing that enforcement opportunity as needed and as it presents itself. But really it's to build relationships, those police community relationships on the front end, and get the community comfortable with talking to us about what's happening in their neighborhoods. And then reintegration is focusing on parolees and adults who have been incarcerated and providing help to them to reintegrate into society. And that can take a number of ways, including vocational education, employment programs, stable housing, tattoo removal, things like that. So those are the 4 prongs that we are looking into for our proposal.
And continuing on, when we look at the target population and the supporting programs and funds, it's important for us to know that the strategies must be evidence-based. We must be able to analyze them. We have to look at this approach of if the evidence or data suggests that the intervention would actually work. If the intervention or strategy selected, will we be able to demonstrate that it actually worked? And that's when we talked about the comparison group. And then is there a plan to collect the data and will for the appraisal and whether the intervention strategy works. So those are all pieces that are important for us. And these are the principles that we have followed in this application process. Next slide. So when we look at our partner agencies, so we're starting to get down to the wire on the finalization of submittal of the grant process. And we started initially a few months ago with a large net of different organizations that we asked to come in and meet and give us their proposals. We're starting to narrow that focus down as we get to the end here, but some of the groups that are involved in now Modesto City Schools, Boys and Girls Club, Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Department with the City of Modesto, El Concilio, the Legacy Alliance, and Stanislaus County Probation. And if we go to the next slide, I can kind of tell you how that's going to fit in with what we're looking at. So within those groups, we've, as the department, we've identified 3 overall goals. And obviously these also come with objectives and project activities. And that's to strengthen the community police relationships in our targeted population, deemed the highest risk for violence. With that, when we partner with Modesto City Schools, that's examining the potential for implementing a school resource officer and getting back into that, getting back into the schools who will work very closely with Parks and Rec and our other partners for programming. So it's not simply a police response, it's getting to know that police officer as a person. The next is providing opportunities for early intervention education. That's our programming, that's the meat and potatoes of the program with the Boys and Girls Club and Parks and Rec, is providing opportunities for the youth to engage in activities that are positive, to give them those preventative measures and positive things to do in the community, which we have some great programming that's being brought forward by these groups. And then lastly, provide a safer community, as Jessica talked about, is there is a component of having the police deployed into this area, but it's more about relationship building, getting to know the families who are affected by violence, getting to know the children in those families, and showing up and being a part of the community when something does happen, but also to prevent those things from happening. So those are our 3 overarching goals with many project activities listed below. And then the last piece is the reintegration with, while we target the youth and help avoid getting them involved in crime, but if someone is coming back into the family that's been incarcerated, how do we get them back in the community safely and reintegrate them with the family so there can be a positive influence in the life of the children? Next slide. And with that, we'll take any questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions from council members? Vice Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation. I'm all for this. My question is, how long will this last with the $6 million grant we'll get, if we get it?
Go ahead, Jessica.
Well, we're not, we are likely not going to put in an application if approved tonight for the full $6 million, because then we'd have to come up with $6 million in matching funds. But for the grant is for 3 years, starting in July, and it will go through June 30th of 2025.
Okay, and my next comment is, this is a great program. I just wish we had enough funding that after the money runs out, we can continue the program, because, you know, if we get with our teens when they're young and build relationships, that has a positive effect on our community down the road. And my hat's off to you, Chief, for looking at that, because you're proactive. You're looking at the future of Modesto, and that's so important. And hopefully our citizens will understand that and how important it is to make sure we have enough funding so we can do programs like this. So thank you.
All right. Any other questions from council members?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure. Councilmember Madrigal.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the strategies you're going to use to get to know the neighbors? Like, for example, is it going to entail door-to-door canvassing, neighborhood meetings, like block captain kind of? I don't even know if we have, you know, if that's even a thing. But I'm just sharing off the top of my head some of the, you know, community capacity building strategies that I know have been used, you know, through the ages, if you will, on getting to know neighborhood. Sorry for the background noise. I live in the west side, and there's some sirens in the background. So folks are hard at work. I wish them the most safety. Anyway, I hope you get the gist of my question.
Yes, Councilmember, absolutely. And we're very fortunate that the partners that we've established through the process of this grant have come forward with amazing ideas that give us an opportunity to do pretty much everything that you just listed, and then some. Some of the things we're talking about are, sports activity weekends in the parks, getting out into your neighborhood, movie nights, having one of the big ways that we're going to be able to do that is through our youth and getting to know the kids at a young age within the schools. But also, we're pretty fortunate to learn that the Boys and Girls Club, specifically Parks and Rec, El Concilio, they all have all these great ideas and have been looking for opportunities to get into the community, and I think this is a great opportunity to do that. So the long answer to your question is yes, all the things you talked about are going to be part of it, and then some. There's a lot of great things that are to come from the programming piece of it.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? All right, any questions from the public or comments?
Mayor, I do not see any hands raised.
All right, thank you. Any comments from council members? Councilmember Ricky?
I just wanted to say I really appreciate the proactive posture that the police department's taking in going for this grant. I mean, this is the reason. It's actions like this, which is why we're seeing a reduction in crime in our community. If you look at homicides being down almost 40% last year, auto theft down 17% last year. This is good work, and it's not like magic. Okay, it's when we're proactive, when we work hard on the prevention side, you see good results, and this is really great work. So I just want to applaud you guys for your dedication to trying to find things like this to make our community better, because you're going to see results from it.
I will just make a brief comment that when I was serving on the school board for 8 years, I spent a lot of time with the children, and I honestly don't know that I ever saw them more enthusiastic about seeing anyone other than when law enforcement came. They were so thrilled to get to know officers and ask a lot of questions and talk to them. And I think, honestly, it will be very helpful to the officers involved to feel that enthusiasm, the concern, and the genuine interest. It was pretty remarkable to watch the interaction. So I can't support this enough. I think we know our children are our future, and this is such a great way to invest in them. So I'm really grateful for that. Any other comments?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, so we have a resolution approving the submission of a grant application for the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program to the Board of State and Community Corrections for up to $6 million in grant funds, with up to $6 million in an in-kind and/or cash match for a maximum commitment of $12 million, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute and submit all documents which may be necessary for the completion of the grant application. And I have a motion from Vice Mayor Wright and a second from Councilmember Zalaki, I believe.
That's correct.
Yes. Will the city clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer? Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. So that carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you so much, both of you, all of you, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. All right, are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I am calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
Good night.